I'm just gonna start off how I start off whenever almost always start off when I make a video, and that's by saying hello, YouTube. Anyway, I said I'd do it, so I'm gonna do it just like I said I'd do it with the Seroquel review. So, it's just some coffee, by the way. So I'm gonna get down to it. Geodon review, cause I was on Geodon for a short amount of time. After my insurance ran out on Abilify back in high school. And originally after my insurance ran off on Abilify, I was on Risperdal again for a short time until I told my psychiatrist that I had feelings about becoming transgender. My psychiatrist was this really old school Russian guy who instantly thought it was because of the Risperdal messing around with my hormones. And after that, he decided to switch me to, I asked if he could maybe switch me to Geodon. He agreed. And then after Geodon wasn't working out, I was on Seroquel. But currently, I will be getting on to the Geodon review. Okay, so the first thing I remember from Geodon is it gave me, like, as soon as I took it, it gave me a ton of anxiety with a feeling of basically tiredness. I felt tired and I felt anxious, basically. Hold on a sec. Okay, I always have to get the perfect angle. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. I felt anxious as soon as I took Geodon, and I felt tired. So I fell asleep almost instantaneously after taking Geodon, but uh, at the same time, I felt extremely anxious while falling asleep. Like I don't know how it's even possible to fall asleep in a normal state of mind without the influence of any, you know, psychiatric drug normally while being that anxious. So it's funny. But as soon as I woke up, I felt complete sanity. Like, Geodon might be the only psychiatric drug, the only antipsychotic I would ever consider, going back on. Uh, because I haven't felt such pure sanity, like I did when I was on Geodon. I haven't felt such pure sanity since, like, preschool or kindergarten or something. Uh, it completely took away it just worked. And it's funny because Geodon worked so well for me. I mean, if I go back on it, I'd have to go back on it while taking an anti-anxiety medication, like possibly Klonopin or Xanax, because I wouldn't be able to take Geodon alone because of the anxiety it just, caused in general as soon as I took it. Like, once it knocked me out and I woke up, I felt pure sanity. You know what I mean? Like I was just there, like pure sanity. But before that kicked in, while I was falling asleep, I was just falling asleep like completely anxious. You know what I mean? So like I said, if I go back on it, I would have to, take it with a anti-anxiety medication, but it is the only antipsychotic that I would consider ever going back on. And the funny thing is, like I was saying, it worked so well for me, but most mental hospitals, instead of, trying like, from, antipsychotics that cause, the least weight gain to the ones that cause the most, like Zyprexa, most mental hospitals don't start you off on a system where they start you off on Geodon, which causes the least, and then if that doesn't work, they slowly work your way up to possibly Zyprexa if they have to. Most mental hospitals don't do that. Most mental hospitals will just give you a horse of a dose of Zyprexa, or if you're court ordered, a horse of a dose of an Invega Sustenna injection, and just, keep you there for a week and then kick you out on the street a drooling zombie. And the reason they do that is money. They want to fill the next bed in that mental hospital as fast as possible. And that's why most mental hospitals don't do the system that I mentioned, where they start you off on an extremely low dose of Geodon and then work, their way up. And if that doesn't work, maybe try you on a small dose of Seroquel. If that doesn't work, maybe, Risperdal. And if that doesn't work, finally, Zyprexa. Most mental hospitals don't do that. They'll just give you the heaviest, hardest dose of Zyprexa, or if you're court ordered, the heaviest, hardest dose of an Invega injection, because they want to get you out of that mental hospital as fast as possible and fill the next bed as fast as possible so they make money. That's how the mental health system works nowadays. Can it be reformed? Absolutely. But the problem is that greed runs our society so much, it's a long road before we even get to, reforming psychiatry, where it's actually a system that does more good than harm. But anyway, that's all I can really say about Geodon, alongside with that small message I just gave about the mental health system. All I can say about Geodon in conclusion is, as soon as I took it, I became extremely tired and anxious, but as soon as I woke up, I just felt the purest level of sanity, which I haven't felt since I was a child, basically. And like I said, it is the only antipsychotic I would ever consider going back on eventually to, help me out with my mental health issues. Because, as long as I could take an anti-anxiety drug with it to balance out that effect. And Geodon does, side effect wise, it's actually pretty good. So, yeah, that's the best. That's all I can say about Geodon in the best way that I can from my experience. I wasn't, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist. I was just what I like to call a psychiatric guinea pig from age 12 to age, about 17. So I'm just sharing the information I have, accumulated in the time of being a psychiatric guinea pig to the world, so that the world might learn from me, so that the people of the world might learn from me and make it a better place in the future. You know what I mean? Where psychiatry might actually do, where psychiatry might actually help people more in the future instead of harm people more in the future. Because the truth is, a lot of people get hurt in the psychiatric institution because they get put on larger doses, than they need to. For example, if someone just has mild psychosis, they don't need a horse of a dose of Zyprexa. You know, you might as well just give them maybe Geodon or Seroquel or a mood stabilizer like Depakote. You know, take notes, you know, and see what the right amount of a dose is needed. But most of the time, psychiatry just overkills it with the dose, like nailing in a nail with a sledgehammer. I mean, does nailing a nail in with a sledgehammer work? I mean, it works, but I mean, it's just overkill. It's going to damage all the surrounding area around that nail. So, the way the psychiatric industry does it nowadays, which is as soon as someone, let's say, goes into a mental hospital because they have, some mild bipolar symptoms with some mild psychosis, giving them a horse of a dose of Zyprexa or somehow manipulating a way to get them court ordered on medication and giving them a horse of a dose of Invega Sustenna, that's just overkill. It's like nailing in a nail with a sledgehammer. You know, is it going to take away their psychosis and, bipolar symptoms or whatever? Yes, it will, but it's overkill. It will cause a lot more damage than it fixes. And that is why we need psychiatric reform. You know what I mean? We need a new system than the greedy one we currently have. But anyway, that was my Geodon review, and some information about the psychiatric industry in the current time period we're living in. You know, in the 21st century, in the 20th decade of the 21st century, the 20th decade of the 21st century. Anyway, that's all, folks. Stay strong out there. Stay strong. That's all you can do in this world.